I feel powerless. When I see a woman carrying a baby, walking 30 miles to get to the border of Poland, I feel powerless. When I see a little boy bundled up in his coat with a hat on that has rainbow colors and was knit by a relative probably, and mittens, and he's at a bus station looking around bewildered because he's leaving the only home he has ever known, and he doesn't know where he's going. I feel powerless. I don't know what to do. What can we do? What are we supposed to do? Surely God must have instructions for us, something we're supposed to do right now, in this time and place. Surely there's a way forward. There's an old Hasidic tale about what happens when a baby is born. These mystical Orthodox Jews believe that when the baby is in the womb, it possesses all knowledge and all wisdom. It knows the mind of God. And as the baby is being born, an angel comes down from heaven and whispers a word in the ear of the baby. And with that single, mysterious, holy word, a veil is cast over the mind of the child. And it knows nothing. But as it grows up, there will be times in its life when, for a brief moment, that veil will be pulled back. Some people call it inspiration, which comes from the word inspiritus, in the spirit in Latin. Some call it innovation. I had a mathematician friend who he would go to sleep at night unable to solve a problem, and sometime in the night he said it would just come to him like, oh, aha, I always knew it. That the veil would be pulled back, and it's as if we already knew the answer. When Moses was on the holy mountain of Sinai, he asked God a question. He asked to see the face of God. And God said, basically, you can't handle it. In the Hebrew, it's rather obtuse. It sort of means you may explode, which is probably right. I mean, if we were to look at God, wouldn't it be sort of like when you put something in an electric socket and the electric socket has too much voltage and it just blows up? There would be too much voltage. We would blow up, right? We can't handle the Godhead, not in this human form. So God says, no, you'll die. But God says, I will let you see, and most English translations say my backside, but it's probably more accurate that God said, I will let you see where I just was. I will let you see where I just was. So Moses sees where God just was, and when he comes down the mountain, his face is radiating light. And it's so bright that people are terrified of him. So Moses has to veil his face. He has to put a veil across his face because people can't handle looking at him, because the light of the presence of the divine has somehow rubbed off on him. Usually, Jesus went up a mountain and prayed by himself, but for some reason, on this day that we remember today, Jesus brought his friends. He brought his disciples, Peter and James and John, and he said, "Why don't you come with me?" So they went up this mountain, and there they were praying in silence. And what happens to the disciples is what happens to many of us who are busy, crazy, distracted human beings. They fell asleep. They do that in the Garden of Gethsemane as well, fall asleep. It's okay. That's what we do at first when we sit in silence. It's because our minds are not used to not be active and doing, right? So they say, oh, maybe we need to go to sleep. But Peter opens his eyes. He wakes up. And this is what he sees. He sees Jesus standing there, but it's more than Jesus, because his face is radiating that same light, and his whole body radiating light. And there is on either side of him Moses and Elijah, and they're talking with Jesus. They're talking about Jesus' dying. And it's so beautiful and so overwhelming. And Peter feels powerless. So he says, what can I do? Oh, let me build 3 tabernacles, altars, places for you guys to stay. I'll build one for each of you. Let's just stay right here. It would be somewhat like if we said, let's take a selfie. Let's try to preserve this moment. I need to do something so I can build these altars, then you guys can stay here, and it'll be perfect, just like this. Just stop and let me fix this so it can stay the same forever. And God has to come down out of a cloud and tell Peter what to do. And God says, this is my son, the one that I love. What are you supposed to do? Listen. Don't do anything. Stop doing. And listen. From there, they will go down the mountain, and Jesus will begin to do again. He will heal people. He will give his life on the cross. But on that moment, on that mountain, what God told us to do was nothing at all. And I know that when I see that woman carrying a baby, all I want to do is something, anything. I need to get busy right now and fix this. And when I see that little boy in his mittens and hat and coat, I want to do something. I need to help him. But the first thing that we must do if we are not to continue to do the same thing over and over again, if we are to allow the veil to be pulled back, if we are to do things differently, to see how God would have us live, we must begin by listening. We must begin by doing nothing at all, but sitting in the presence of God and saying, I feel powerless. Pull back the veil for me. Show me what I must have once known but have forgotten. Because somewhere deep inside, I know all of us understand that we are one, that I am that woman with the baby, and I am that little boy who's lost in the bus station. And that we will never solve the planet's problems so long as we don't fully understand that we are so united that when one of us suffers, we all suffer. We will never understand how to care for this beautiful earth that God has given us until we understand that we are one, not only with people here on this earth, but with those who have died and gone before. That there is a conversation going on that is so much greater than we could ever understand. But if we listen, perhaps God will pull the veil back a bit and show us something new, something unprecedented, so that we can come down from the mountain and get to work. Not doing the same things over and over again, or trying to fix or solve or plan or execute, but to do what God has given us to do. I feel powerless. I know you do too. So let us not be afraid to listen. Amen.